It's a beautiful day in Fort Worth. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Fort Worth, and how wonderful to see all these fantastic Rotarians here today. We're going to start the meeting with an invocation by Brad Nowlin, who is a therapist with Fort Worth Counseling. Brad?
Gracious God, we gather as Rotarians, united in service above self. Guide our hands as we work to build stronger communities, our hearts as we extend friendship across all barriers, and our minds as we seek innovative solutions to the world's challenges. Amen.
What so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose white stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Thank you, Brad, and thank you to Henry Barbola, Market Executive at First Bank Southwest, for playing our national anthem. And here to introduce today's visitors is Key Bryant. She was trying to get her food, but we're not going to let her.
Good morning. Well, good afternoon. Excited to announce the guests. We have Scott Hudson, guest of speaker Carrie Crow Sayer. We've got Steve Marzette of the Midland West Rotary, guest of Matt Kimball. We have Drew Davis, guest of Abby Dudek. We have Cal Pinnell, guest of John Kirk. We have Dominique Anderson, guest of the great Rosa Marie Berdeja. We have Kayla Arisman, guest of David Campbell. We have Maria Kaplan and John I don't want to mispronounce it. Say it for me. Cangiano. Sorry, John. Guest of Zoran. I work really hard not to mispronounce anybody's name, and I just got his a few minutes ago. Enjoy the meeting.
Thank you, Key. We're so glad that all our guests are here and hope you enjoy the meeting. And now it's time for our four-way test. Please join me as we say this together. 1, is it the truth? 2, is it fair to all concerned? 3, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Those are words that we live by as Rotarians. And now I would like to introduce Kathy Neese-Brown, who is not here yet, so we might do that later. A few announcements. Becky Fetty, who is Director of Membership and Marketing with DFW Inc., will join us for a blood drive announcement. Becky.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Quick announcement regarding an opportunity for you all to give back to the community. in a huge way. We've once again partnered with Carter Blood Care for our annual blood drive. It's going to be held next Wednesday in Burnett Park. The blood donor van will be on 7th Street in between Cherry and Lamar Street. You can scan the QR code to sign up. It was also in the rotograph. It'll be from 10 a.m. to noon. Walk-ins are welcome, but we definitely encourage the sign-ups. We'll also have a lunchtime musician in Burnett Park, so if you do want to pack a lunch and come on down, you're welcome to do that. And after, oops, spam is calling, sorry about that. And after you're donating, after you donate your blood, I will be out there, and I just worked out with our guest speaker today, Carrie. Carrie'd like to buy everyone a scoop of ice cream at Melts that comes and donates blood. So I'll have some little cards for you to go walk down to her new location at 7th and Main. So as you know, blood donations are constantly needed here to save lives, and every single donation makes a difference. So I hope you all consider coming out next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Just blood, no sweat and tears. Okay, we have first readings next. I'll call on Secretary Christina Judge, who is Executive Director of the Mental Health Connection. Christina.
Thank you, Ann. Morning, afternoon. We have two first readings today. The proposed members are Adam Powell, who is the President and CEO of United Way of Tarrant County, classification not-for-profit. Proposer is AG and past President Sean Snell. Second, we have Evan Lewis, who is the Vice President Relationship Manager at Bank of America. Classification is banking, and the proposer is past President Courtney Lewis. If no written objections are received in the Rotary office by June 13th, these proposals will be given a second reading and voted on by the club. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. And now it is time to introduce our chairperson of the day, Mr. Bill Fairley, who is a financial advisor with Fairley Wealth Management. Bill, take it away.
I stumbled out of my chair. Thank you, President-elect Ann. I am really tickled to be able to do this introduction today because our guest is actually a friend of mine, and a friend of mine, my wife and I, Carrie Crow Sayer, and she made her splash in 2014 with her ice cream shop, Melt Ice Cream, that I'm sure most of you all are familiar with, where her mission is to give you the best 5 minutes of your day. I mean, outside of this introduction. The cool thing is, going off script here, is Carrie and my wife she would brainstorm with my wife about wanting to start her business. So I feel like we watched her do this and grow, and I couldn't be prouder of her. She's great. So Melt opened in 2014, and it's since grown to 5 scoop shops, a production kitchen, a catering department of trucks and carts, national shipping, and grocery distribution. Melt makes all natural ice cream flavors from small batches. They have an inspiring menu of flavors with classics and creative concoctions like lavender honey crunch and dulce de leche strawberry pistachio. And they're always plant-based flavors with coconut milk. Carrie is a graduate of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program and was selected as one of the 20 women entrepreneurs for the 2018 James Beard honor. Isn't that something? That's great. Women's Entrepreneur Leadership Program. That was the rest of that, sorry. Carrie has served on the advisory committee for the Fort Worth Food and Wine Festival. She actively serves with local nonprofits, the Birthday Party Project being one of them. When she isn't running her business, she is literally running, and if you all don't know that, she is an ultra marathon person, goes on these 100 and 150-mile runs. She's crazy, I tell you, but very impressive. And mountain, it's unbelievable. So, she lives in the heart of Fort Worth. And like I said, I've known her for many years. She lives with her husband, Mark, and her best friend, dog Mills. So please welcome my friend, who I couldn't be more proud of, Carrie Crow.
Hi, hello. I recognize some faces in here. I didn't know if I would know anybody today, so it's exciting to recognize some faces. I actually have not done this talk with a slideshow, so it might feel a little off with me clicking through the slideshow. So I am so grateful to Bill for that introduction. I almost don't even need a talk now that he's told you all about Melt. But I'm just curious, who in the room is an entrepreneur or business owner? If I can just see a show of hands. Great. Then maybe this talk will resonate with you. Like Bill said, my name is Carrie Sayer. I am not a Texas native. Let's see. I'm not a Texas native, but I've been here for 20 years, so I do feel like I am a Texan now. I've got the cowboy hat and the cowboy boots, and like I said, I've been here for 20 years. I want to tell you a little bit about me that's not on my resume. I am an athlete, like Bill said. I love to run ultra marathons. Now, an ultra marathon is anything over 26.2 miles. So for me, I like to run ultra marathons in the mountains. So the harder it is to breathe, the harder it is to climb the mountain, the more I love it. I also am a guide to blind runners. My friend Scott here, I guide on a weekly basis. We've been running together for 2 years. And now he's not just a friend, but he's a part of my family. And so I was so lucky that he wanted to come and be my guest today. I also love food. I am a huge lover of food, whether that's going out and experiencing a new restaurant or trying a new dish, or meticulously planning and hosting a dinner party at my house. I fall asleep reading cookbooks. I love the food industry. But when I'm not doing those things, I'm often on an adventure with my husband. I like to climb mountains. Last year I climbed the Grand Teton in Wyoming. And we're preparing for a sabbatical of 3 months, living out of a van, chasing good weather, climbing, running, and backpacking. And then when I'm doing these adventures, these 100-mile runs, I'll do anything around the country. I am the yes girl. If somebody asks me to go on an adventure, I just say when. So that's a little bit about who I am as a person. I'd love to tell you a little bit about my career and the paths that I've taken. Like many entrepreneurs, it has not been a straight road. Before I get to Melt, I studied studio art in college. I was a photographer and studied photojournalism. So in my early 20s, I was a photojournalist and I was a luxury wedding photographer. And on the side, I shot and photographed food. I did a lot of that work for free, and I fell in love with the hospitality industry. I loved everything that it represented, and 11 years later, I'm still asking myself why. Just kidding. The hospitality industry is incredibly grueling. The margins are thin. If you worked in restaurants, you know that you probably tried to work yourself out of a restaurant very quickly. If you've waited tables, I think we could give a big round of applause to all the servers here and the people that made our food. Because it's incredibly hard work. But for me, the hospitality industry is about nourishing and celebrating people through the act of food. And that passion for me developed into Melt. I decided I wanted to open an ice cream shop in Fort Worth using real ingredients. We make everything at Melt in a kitchen, in a commissary kitchen. It's actually in the old Stark Telegram complex off of 20 and Hemphill. But we use real ingredients. We make our cookies from scratch, our jams from scratch, our sauces are made with real fruit. We don't use fake flavorings. I like to say that we do things the hard way. Most other ice cream shops buy, cans of jams, cans of fruit, or use fake flavorings to flavor their products. It makes the dollar go further, but we do things the hard way. I did not come from money. I had 0 investors, and no one would give me a bank loan. I had an art degree, and my husband handed me a stack of his economic books from college. He was an economics major, and said, "Here you go. There's plans in here on how to write a business plan." So I wrote a business plan, but I really just had this dream and this really deep love of frozen treats. And selfishly, I wanted a place that I could go and experience good quality ice cream. And in 2014, after selling everything in my house that wasn't nailed down and bartering with my neighbors to paint walls and covering used furniture that I bought off of Craigslist with fabric from IKEA, I opened on April 14th with 2 employees by my side. And y'all, I was really broke. I was so scared to spend money, and I had such little money to spend that I did not buy a cash register. We opened with a calculator and a cash box. I bought all of my equipment at auction, and I quickly learned the lesson, and I love to share the lessons I've learned so nobody goes through the pain of what I've learned. But I quickly learned the lesson that you don't buy refrigeration equipment at auction. Dom's husband works on all of our freezer equipments, and I think it's probably the #1 thing he would say is you don't buy used freezer equipment because their compressors go bad, and that is why they're at auction. So within the first 2 weeks, everything I bought at auction died, and I had to replace them. But that 2 weeks gave me the confidence. So I really am the poster child of bootstrapping. And like Bill said, as I stand here today, I have 5 stores, I have 80+ employees, I have a full salaried leadership team, I have a booming catering department that did 740 events last year across the Metroplex. We just moved into a 10,000 square foot headquarters and commissary kitchen, and our ice cream is in every central market in the state of Texas. Thank you. But between that opening day and today has not been a straight line, and as a business owner or entrepreneur, I'm sure you can relate. You go through highs and lows, you ride the waves in a business. And it really took me a while to learn that is part of business. Business is about solving problems for the people around you. For years, I worked 50, 60, 70-hour weeks, which is not sustainable. I was really obsessed with growing the company. I took little to no vacations. I would reinvest every dollar that came into the business. My husband left the corporate world and joined me full time. But one of the things I did for myself, and I kind of had to do because eating all of this ice cream made me a little fluffy, I got back into running. And in 2018, I discovered trail running. Is there anybody here besides Brad that's a trail runner or runner? Yes, we've got Dom. Yes, we've got some trail runners. I love it. So for me, trail running was this thing that grounded me. It was very therapeutic. It gave me peace. It gave me time to work out my problems. Trail running is a little different than road running. You don't look at your watch as much because every terrain is different. So you're really focused on effort and less on time. At least that's what I tell myself as a back of the packer. And in 2018, while we were building and opening our first commissary kitchen, I signed up for one of the toughest races in the United States called the Leadville 100. And I had a few glasses of wine, and I didn't tell my husband, and I just put my name in this lottery, and I was like, oh, I won't get in. And then a few weeks later, I got in, and I was like, okay, I have to run this 100-mile race. If there's a wonderful book that has this quote about the race from Chris McDougall. The book is called Born to Run. I highly recommend it. But he says, running the Leadville 100 is like running the Boston Marathon twice, with a sock in your mouth, then hiking Pikes Peak, and then doing it all again blindfolded. It's a really tough race. It has almost a 4,000 foot mountain smack dab in the middle of the race. So even after you've run 50 miles, you now have to climb a mountain, crest the mountain, and get to the other side, and then you turn around and do it again. I was terrified, but I'm also terrified of failure, so I spent a lot of time training. I trained incredibly hard. I sacrificed a lot. And I showed up and I ran the race through sleet, through rain. There was a lot of tears. There was some vomit. There was some sleep depression. There was some dehydration. But I crossed the finish of that race with 4 minutes to spare. So I had 30 hours to do it. I crossed it in 29 hours and 56 minutes. And I learned that a lot of things, but I learned about perseverance under extreme pressure. I learned the power of a team championing you. And I learned that when your body is wrecked, your mind can keep you moving forward. I think probably the biggest challenges that any of us face are the 6 inches between our ears. The brain is an incredibly powerful tool. And even when your body says, I can't anymore, if you can keep telling your brain positive things, your body can do it. I wonder if this therapist would agree with me, Brad. So now I've run a number of these races. I've run 3, I believe, 100-mile races. I've run a 155-mile race through the jungle in Costa Rica. I've run across the Grand Canyon and back twice. I have DNFing, which is not finishing. I pulled out of a race at mile 75 because of extreme pain. I have run through, I pulled a calf at mile 80 of a race. I've experienced extreme dehydration. I've watched people be pulled from races from hypothermia, things that you can go from being in the top 10 to being in last place like that. In an ultra, I watch these ultra marathons, and you might see somebody that's in like the top 3 positions in the first 25 miles, but you still have 75 miles to go. And things can change really quickly in these races. So in 2019, I had opened 2 stores. We just built our commissary kitchen, and I really believed that we were set to have our most profitable summer in that season. I was really excited. We had worked really hard to build that commissary kitchen. My husband took a consulting job out of state because we were so terrified of getting into debt. We wanted to offset the cost of building that kitchen. And then March of 2020 came. And it sounds like some of you experienced some pain that month as well. But just a little bit of the stats in the restaurant industry is the restaurant industry lost $240 billion in revenue across the United States, 110,000 closures of small food businesses, most that have not been able to reopen, and 2.5 million jobs were lost in food businesses that month. And overnight, we lost 50% of our revenue. And I felt like everything was spiraling. I was trying to keep the business afloat and trying to cut every expense that I could. I had invested all of my future, all of our money into this company, and with the hope and the dream that it was on a trajectory that was working. I felt like I had been really strategic in my decisions and careful, and yet it didn't matter that we couldn't control this event. And so I was in a very dark place. I grieved, I was angry, and I felt really disappointed and anxious, and all the emotions that come with grieving something that you've worked really hard for and it being out of control, that you're losing it. It's at your fingertips and you're losing it, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I realized that in those moments, I had tied up a lot of my identity of who I was as a person in the company, and that who was I if the company could fall apart, and who could I still be? So in that experience, I was just in survival mode. And so I looked around at my team and I said, I will do whatever I can to keep the company alive. And I did. I hustled harder than I'd ever hustled before. I remember writing a letter to our staff asking if anybody didn't need the job. And lucky for me, I have a lot of young people that work for me, and their parents were thrilled to say, I don't want you to work during a pandemic. And so I had voluntary resignations. And then we got creative. We created, delivery programs. We launched a program for hospital healthcare workers where our customers could buy scoops for healthcare workers, and I could go and deliver scoops to the hospitals with notes to these healthcare workers across DFW. We turned our food truck into a mobile ice cream store selling pints, going from neighborhood to neighborhood. We didn't have the music though. I was a little disappointed by that, but we did show up with our pints. We hosted weekly chef collaborations, and we cut every expense we could. I didn't pay myself, my husband didn't pay himself. We lived in a very small house, and we were in a position where we could exist that way. And then we did survive. But I wouldn't say that I thrived in that scenario. I was very, very overworked. As many of you, I'm sure, can relate. We survived, but I didn't thrive. And on the other side of COVID, where I hoped that everything was going to get easier, it all kind of blurred together. But we went from crisis to crisis. Then we went to ingredient shortages and staffing shortages. And I started to experience extreme burnout. And if you've experienced burnout, it makes you feel very isolated. I felt very trapped inside of the company that I'd created, and I really struggled to recognize who I was and who my identity was, considering I felt like I'd wrapped it up in this company, and the company could end overnight. And I always believe that if your business can't run without you, then you've just created a job for yourself, which is okay if that's what you choose. But I felt stuck in this job that I'd created for myself. So I had really lost my spark. And I had to journey to figure out who I was again. And so I went back to those core truths that I had learned through ultra running. And these are things that when you become an ultra runner, a trail runner, running these big distances that everybody kind of talks about and you kind of learn. And some of those things that I learned, I knew I had to bring back into my life in terms of the business. So the first thing that I learned is that there are two types of fun. That there is the obvious fun that you probably experience on a daily basis where you're going to the movies, you're laughing with your kids. It's fun, it's lighthearted, it's what we think about when we think about fun. But then there's type 2 fun where it's might be hard and painful in the moment, but it's a situation that you reflect on and you're proud about afterwards. So it might not be fun in the moment, but when you reflect on it afterwards, you're really proud that you did it, and that's why you want to go and do it again. At mile 80 in the middle of a sleet storm with a pulled calf, knowing I have 20 miles ahead of me, it is absolutely not fun. There's nothing anybody can say to me to tell me that what I'm doing is fun. I know it's a choice that I make, but afterwards, when I reflect on it, I'm like, I want to do that again, So there is some part of me that believes that type 2 fun builds character. And the second thing is that you need a crew. You need a support system. In ultra marathons, your crew shows up to feed you, to change your clothes, to wrap your feet when you have blisters. They are your brain to help you think when you are so tired or dehydrated, or to let you know what you need to do to keep surviving. In business, your crew can be your leaders around you. They can be your mentors, your coaches, your therapists, all of which I rely on now. And then the third thing you need is your why. When you're in pain, when everything feels heavy, your why is what pulls you forward. And in business, your why is your compass. And I realized that I was feeling stuck because I had lost some of those things. But my why for Melt was always to create joy for those around me, for them to have a respite from their life. Our name, Melt Ice Cream, isn't named because ice cream does what? It melts. It's not named that for that. But Melt is named Melt because we believe that when you hand over an ice cream scoop to somebody, it doesn't matter if you've had a hard day. It doesn't matter if you flunked a test or your kid got in trouble at school or the weight of your mortgage is weighing on your shoulders or a friend got a bad diagnosis. We believe when you take that ice cream scoop, there is a moment where you remember, where you have this good moment and the weight of the world melts off your shoulders. And so we want people to have that experience through our ice cream, that when they accept that ice cream cone, when they get that, it's also really hard physically to frown while eating an ice cream cone. If you think about it, your mouth automatically goes up. And so we want Melt to be that for you. We want to melt off those worries, whether they're big or small, just for a moment in the time that you have. And so my why for Melt was always creating joy and creating memories and creating a space where people could have high quality ice cream made with premium ingredients and enjoy special times with their family. And so rediscovering that why for me gave me the ability to move forward in the business. I learned to trust the people around me. I built a leadership team. I had to learn some hard lessons for myself and learned that I am not my business, that my identity is not my business, that Melt is this beautiful thing that I have built and I have empowered people to be a part of it and run it, but it doesn't represent who I am. That I'm a whole person, that I'm a guide runner, that I'm a cook, that I'm a friend, that I'm a mountain climber. And I want this business to continue to be this legacy company, but it can only be that way with a support system, with a group of amazing people that also believe in it, and it can't just rely on me. And when I rediscovered my why, I had that capacity again to focus on the company. I had that capacity to dream again. I really had the capacity to think about how we as an organization spread happiness, whether that's getting some ice cream after you donate blood, or something else. But our goal at Melt is to teach young people. Ice cream, if you think about it, is a lot of people's first job. And we want to teach people how they should be treated in the hospitality world. So I want young people to come and work for us. I want parents to want their kids to work there because they learn valuable skills that they can take for the rest of their lives into their next jobs. Melt also represents, we give a percentage of our sales every year to a nonprofit called the Birthday Party Project that celebrates kids in homeless shelters all across the United States and throws birthday parties. A lot of times when a parent is trying to get back on their feet, the last thing they can afford or have the space for is throwing their kid a birthday party, and that kid doesn't get celebrated. So this organization comes in and throws a birthday party every month for these kids in the shelters, and we get to take our employees and show them what it means to serve in the community in a really joyful way. But it gave me this opportunity again to dream and think and have the capacity. And so if there's 3 things that you can remember from me or take away, is to know the type of situation you're in. What type of fun are you having? Is it type 2 fun or is it type 1 fun? But if it's type 2, is it temporary? Are you gonna be proud of it on the other side? Are you gonna be excited for what you've accomplished? Number 2, know who your crew is. Who's your support system? Who do you lean on when things get hard? Who surrounds you? Are those your coaches? Are those your therapists? Are they just your mentors or your peer group? Maybe it's this club right here. And the third thing is to know your why. Write it down, name it, and let it be your compass that guides you when things get hard, because things will get hard and things will get scary. Like I said, business isn't a straight road, and it hasn't been for me. But I'm really proud of where we are now, and that I have come out on the other side of that and have the capacity now to dream big for what the next chapter of our company is. So thank you. I know I didn't go the full time, so I'd really love to open up the floor to questions.
I'm sure getting your product in the central market had its challenges. Can you talk about that and also about the distribution?
Yeah, distribution to our stores is different than Central Market. So distribution to our stores, we do through our own delivery system. So we processes and systems for everything. We have our own delivery drivers and our own delivery vehicles, and we deliver 2 to 3 times a week to our stores for freshness and quality. Central Market, yes, was a challenge. It is not, to be very transparent, you don't make a ton of money when you put your product in grocery store. Like, there's a lot of middlemen, but it is a opportunity that we didn't have when COVID happened and grocery store sales went up 70%. So it, for us, is a part of our marketing in being in those stores and represented in those markets. And really, Central Market chose us. They came to us. They wanted our product on their shelves.
Do you have big corporations chasing after you to try and buy your company?
Sometimes, but I'm a firm believer that if we're having fun, then we should keep having fun. And I love the people that I work with and the leadership team that I have, and I'm having a blast with them. So I'm not, at this moment in time, really interested. So, but who knows what the future holds. So my favorite flavor changes based on the season. Right now we have a really awesome key lime pie flavor that I love. My favorite always flavor on our menu is called loaded cookie dough. And it's kind of a triple process. We take cream and milk and we soak it in what we call soaker cookies to extract the flavor of like a milk, to extract the flavor from the cookies in the milk, but nobody wants soggy cookies in their ice cream. So then we strain out those cookies, but it has the flavor, and then we put a crunchier chocolate chip cookie in that ice cream, and then we put a cookie dough in that ice cream as well. So that's my favorite always flavor. Yeah. So he asked, what's the longest ultramarathon and what's the hardest? Last summer, I ran the Ouray 100, which I think is now the hardest race in the country. It has 42,000 feet of elevation gain in it, and you have 52 hours to complete it. And 42,000 feet of elevation gain is really hard to train for in Texas. So I have one hill, and I will run that hill for like 6 to 7 hours at a time, which can be very monotonous, but it's the only way for me to get elevation gain. So for me, that race is probably the hardest. The longest is the 155-mile race I did in Costa Rica, but that was a multi-day event.
Speaking of ice cream flavors, is it true your first truck broke down because of Rocky Road?
I love that story, but that's not true. Rocky Road, we came out with, it's called Rocky Roads. It's our take on Rocky Road. We came out with that during the pandemic. The flavor that everybody knows as Rocky Road was invented in the 1930s during the Great Depression, and that's why it's called Rocky Road. And so when 2020 happened, we said, we're gonna make our version of Rocky Road, because it's also a time when our neighbors and community need to be uplifted. But our truck has broken down many times. That's part of it. Yes, sir.
What is your sales volume? Where did you start from and where are you at today?
Oh, that's a good question. We should end the year around 4 million. Thank you. Yes, sir.
So first, congratulations on your 11-year overnight success.
Thank you.
So entrepreneurship is rugged, you talked about that. What you do on the trail is rugged, you talked about that. Which one's harder for you and why?
It's a great question. I would say business used to be harder for me until I had the proper tools in place to navigate it. I am a huge proponent of having a coach for everything in your life. I have a therapist, I have a business coach, I have a strength coach, I have a running coach. So having all the tools in place allow me now to navigate that better. But I'm always searching for what the hardest edge is for me. So I don't think I know what is the hardest thing yet. Last year when I climbed the Grand Teton, I was with a guide and it felt like the hardest thing I'd ever done because I have a great fear of heights. But now I've exposed myself to a lot of heights, so I don't know if that would feel like the hardest thing, so. Yes, sir.
Do you have any children?
I don't have children, I have a dog. Any other questions? Awesome.
Carrie, it's the tradition of our club to make a donation to Rotary International's Polio Plus Fund in honor of our speaker. And here is a token of that donation, and we thank you so much for being here today. This is for you. Thank you. What an inspirational story. That's just great. Well, we are finishing today in record time, so I'd ask for your patience as we have just a few announcements to make. First of all, thank you to today's volunteers. We have a lot of folks running AV, being greeters, signing in people, and without all of the volunteers, this club would not be able to do what we do. Secondly, we'd like to remind you of the blood drive on 6/11. That's next Wednesday. And then in addition to that, we want to remind everyone of the Crazy Pants 2025, which is coming up in October. But James is always looking for sponsors and players, so if you have any questions, be sure and see James Emmons. Then the International Committee is going to meet immediately following this meeting in the Rotary office. And next week on Friday the 13th, we will be hearing from Paul Taylor, who is president of Martin Sprocket and Gear, and he will be telling us about 74 years in Fort Worth. And one of these days, we'll have Carrie back to tell about her 74 years in Fort Worth. Now, has everyone filled out the SurveyMonkey survey that came in your email? Well, I didn't think so. So we've had a number of folks who have done that, but for those of you who have not, I would recommend that you go ahead and take that survey. It won't take long, closes tomorrow night, and then next week, everyone who has completed the survey will have their name in a drawing for this wonderful summer fun pack. And included are some great things. We've got some snacks, some sunscreen, jalapeno limeade, which sounds a little interesting, and some adult beverages. You know, never mind, I'll just take this. I'll get this out of the way. With that, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week on Friday the 13th. Meeting is adjourned.